Action!
Action.
Right. Let's get right into it.
Right.
Hey, so good evening, y'all. Whatever time it is for you in the world right now. Um, we're starting off this podcast today because we wanted to start something a little bit more creative. There's been a couple times where we've talked about kind of diving into speaking on the industry when it comes to games, how it affects consumers, and kind of just give us or give you our take on what's going on, especially this year. There's been tons of games coming out, tons of coverage, and we're all pretty much here really into gaming consistently, trying out different things when they come out, whether it's triple A's, indies, small little party games with friends. It's something that we wanted to kind of express over a video medium and podcast. So it's kind of why we started this. There are a few different reasons why each one of us want to go ahead and get into this. And we'll probably talk more about that as we go. But just to introduce myself, my name is Austin. We have here Leon, and
What up? What up?
we got our boy Josh.
Yo, what's up?
So if we wanted to just go ahead and get started, kind of wanted to go over the coverage that happened in the past 2-ish weeks. We had the Summer's Game Fest, we had State of Play, we had Nintendo Direct and Xbox Showcase, as well as some further additional insight into some games that have been showing some gameplay over the past couple of weeks. So if any of us want to just go ahead and get started with maybe one of the showcases, I think the first one that we have on our list is going to be Summer Games Fest. Yeah.
Shade, you wanna go in the Summer Game Fest?
I'd be more than happy to. So
Sounds good.
so far, with Summer Games Fest, what I've seen really impressive, and just to kind of give you guys a bit of a background about me and my history with gaming is just down to the fact that I'm more or less as hardcore as it gets. So I pretty much play a little bit of everything. Had a chance to see a lot of bangers that are coming out between now and September and leading into the end of the year. A lot of announcements, a lot of speculations that have been confirmed. So I'm pretty much going to have quite a bit on my plate to cover over the next few months. Stellar Blade 2 announcement, Phantom Blade Zero, which got delayed back to October because not that there was anything wrong with the game or that they had any complications with development, but they literally said that they wanted to take an extra month to really improve the visual quality, upgrade the assets, the character models, and pretty much essentially make a already good looking game look even better than it is. One of the things that I wasn't really expecting this year, because I primarily play on PC these days and my PS5 is kind of like a backup. But when I saw that Wolverine showcase, that took me all the way back to 2009 with X-Men Origins Wolverine. That brutal, visceral combat, comic book accurate, Wolverine this time. So we got our short king back, ladies and gentlemen. Our 5'4" short king, ripping people to shreds. Our adamantium munchkin, whatever you want to call him. So I'm looking forward to that. My only gripe is Sony stopping the multi-platform releases and going back to full-blown exclusivity. I kind of get why they did it, but it was kind of out of left field. And this is just my personal opinion on that if they're going to go back to exclusivity, go back to timed exclusivity, because other platforms I still think deserve to have your product for PC, Xbox, which kind of is on life support at this point, but we'll get into that a lot later. But games like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding 1 and 2, Spider-Man, to name a few, Horizon, have all done well on PC. So I don't see this being a smart long-term move for them to completely pull out of multi-platform releases, go back to a year, 6 months maybe. Make your money, your sales goals with whatever you think you project to make off of your titles, and then do your brand deals with other platforms to make more money. It's only going to help you, not hurt you. But like I said, that's just my personal opinion on things. But I get it. It's to incentivize the sale of more consoles. But the problem is that consoles are now going up in price. Even with the Switch 2 going up $50 by September of this year. So this is going to be a case of, strike while the iron is hot. If you can get your hands on one before that price hike, definitely do it. Because I don't see these prices normalizing and going back down anytime soon. And especially with the eve of the release of the Steam machine pretty soon. So September overall, though, I will say is probably going to be the biggest month of releases just this year, leading up to GTA 6. So you got Wolverine, Onimusha, longtime franchise, releasing the title after 20-something years.
Mhm.
And one other title that I can't think of off the top of my head, but we got at least 3 or 4 games dropping in September.
Yeah,
And
there's definitely a lot.
Yep.
At least 10 games, I think,
Easily.
coming out that month. If you include across the board what's coming out for the Switch, what's coming out for console, what's coming out for PC, there's tons of content dropping this September, for sure.
And side note, besides what we already know that's coming out, and this is going to segue into the fact that Austin and I have been keeping tabs on this for a long time, and he already knows what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Stellar Blade 2. Wow.
Yep.
Sooner rather than later. We definitely got to share our thoughts on that as well, because just to kind of touch into Shift Up and pretty much how much they have hustled over the past 3 to 4 years, and now they're putting out this game. And
Yeah, so if we kind of look into back with some of the teasers that we got into Summer Games Fest, starting off with that one, yeah, we had Stellar Blade 2, Blood Rain is its official name. They didn't go with 2 as a number because they wanted this game to kind of have more of its own identity. There's been a couple interviews with the CEO of Shift Up talking about the reasons behind that, trying to give more of a character to the new person that we have in Stellar Blade, which is Eevee. They felt like in the original first Stellar Blade that Eve was a little bit dull in some places, and I can kind of see that. But if you look at things through a perspective of her being this sort of android AI, it's understandable that she lacks a little bit of emotion. But leading into this new sequel that we have going, they definitely want the new character to have more depth to them for sure. So it's definitely exciting. The world was definitely something that threw us for a loop, especially being that it was named off as a sequel. Through some of the opening shots, you would have thought that it would be a prequel. If you haven't seen the first game, definitely won't spoil it. But those first opening shots would have led you to believe that this was beforehand. So seeing that as a sequel, I'm pretty excited for that. I don't personally like going back in time once I already know a current story. And the combat changes that we have going on as well are definitely a nice refresh. I'm curious to see whether or not we stick to one type of combat in this game, or if they will try to go ahead and implement different types of weapon types, things like that. So
Yeah, because she was throwing hands, something fierce.
Definitely.
No, knocking people through walls. So she was boxing people up, and it looked great. It looked snappy. And that's the thing that Shift Up has gotten really good at. It was a sense of familiarity while keeping things fresh and new. So I'm curious to see how they further expand on the fact that the androids were just finding out first game what happened to humanity. So like I said, I don't want to delve too much into it with anyone who hasn't played the game, but you find out what the monsters are in the first game, which plays a very big part in that. So like I said, I'll try to keep this as spoiler free as possible. The game's been out for a few years, but like I said, there's still some that may have not had a chance to play it or simply didn't have time, just kind of staying in consideration of those. But definitely pay attention to the story. There's definitely a twist, a good wrap up, and there is at least 3 endings with one true ending as well. So definitely worth multiple playthroughs. So everyone has time. Heck, even if you can't even play it, watch videos on it. They're all over YouTube. But the story is pretty solid. It doesn't try to be anything more than what it is, but it's compelling enough where you like the characters and the world building, and it takes some inspiration coupled with the fact that it did a collab with Nier.
Yes.
As well.
Very similar.
Very similar. The soundtrack. Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to hear this new soundtrack, because Stellar Blade, arguably for me, has one of the best action soundtracks in the hack and slash genre, next to Nier Automata, Nier Replicant, Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden. Because you want to be able to beat some ass to some kick-ass music, and it's catchy. Yeah. It's very catchy.
It really immerses you in the world that they have going on, and I can only expect that it's just going to go up from here. They did go ahead and speak on that in a few of the interviews and talk about how much, or how more important it is, especially in this game, that they want to give the same sort of feeling that they had in the first game with the soundtrack, but improve upon that. And there's a couple other aspects within the game that they're trying to do, whether it's outfits, the look of the world, soundtrack, etc. There's a lot to look forward to there. At this point, if you haven't played the first game, definitely would suggest. At this point, we have it released on PlayStation, PC, and we have a Switch release that's coming up soon. So if you have any of those consoles or systems, it's definitely a recommend.
For sure.
And shout outs to Nintendo as well, because back then you had to wait just to get anything on, let alone the first Switch. But now I think everything is coming out to where it's a simultaneous release, which is making Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo was already relevant, but now that they're delving more into the market of multi-platforms as opposed to just exclusives for their titles, is really going to open up and expand their market. And let's be honest, Nintendo has never had an issue with accessibility as far as games are concerned. But I think what really carried Nintendo for as long as it did, is really just the fact that it was a family-oriented console, and they probably arguably have the strongest exclusivity as far as their titles: Zelda, Metroid, Mario, Donkey Kong, to name a few, that people old and young can still enjoy. Nintendo's been around since the 80s, with a lot of these characters and a lot of these titles. So they're always going to sell. They're never not going to sell. But the fact that they're getting into a multi-platform market is going to help skyrocket them further. Now, the only thing that I wish is I kind of wish their games went on sale more often than they don't. But that's a whole nother conversation, because you're always going to buy their shit at full price, which, like I said, it's always going to sell. But that's a whole nother caveat that I have. But either way, Nintendo is getting on the ball. But Shift Up, they have a lot of goodwill built. Just to touch on briefly with the fact that number one, when Stellar Blade first dropped on PlayStation, reviewers that did performance benchmarks, because we live in a day and age where now the game may look good, but does it perform well? How does it play? How does it feel? These are all questions that we're asking now, which back then we didn't have to really worry about that as much. You had a working product. So now a lot of companies and a lot of devs are coming under a lot of scrutiny of, okay, your game looks good, but how does it play? How does it feel? Is it optimized? Does it run well on the hardware that you put it out for? Stellar Blade has performed well on baseline PS5 flawlessly. And then I kind of made a prediction to where if this game hypothetically were to release on PC, which it eventually did, if it performs this well on a base console, imagine how well it's going to perform on PC. And I made a judgment call on that. And lo and behold, the game looks beautiful on PC.
Yep. They knocked it out of the park.
They blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
They blew it out of the water. So if they were, and I was like, if they were to make a sequel to this, then, I get the feeling that it would be more of the same, just Unreal Engine 5. Because remember, this is Unreal Engine 4 that we're dealing with, which is still a good engine that a lot of devs still use with a lot of titles nowadays. So I'm curious to know, matter of fact, what do you guys think? Do you guys think this is still Unreal Engine 4? Do you think it's 5 with the assets that they're using now? You think it could be 5?
The new one coming up?
Yeah, you think it's 5 or still 4?
To be honest, they may have dabbled into 5, but I'm not too sure. I feel like a lot of the games that have dabbled in that Unreal Engine kind of like make an announcement and make it known. And I don't think, to my knowledge, that they did say anything about being on Unreal Engine 5, but I could be wrong on that one.
So I do actually know the answer to this. It is Unreal Engine 5 that they've moved over to.
Now, but real quick before you make your point, I will say this. Now that we know this, if this game comes out next year and it performs the same, if not better than its prequel, its predecessor, no other devs can make any excuse for how bad most Unreal Engine 5 titles run these days, because you're getting shown up by your competition. All right. It's already happened at least once or twice before that.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of examples of that already. Things like Arc Raiders.
Expedition 33 as well.
Expedition 33, yep. And it really just comes down to how the devs use this technology. And we've seen from a couple studios at this point, it is possible to make a stable game and something that does run good on Unreal 5. It just takes that time and patience and dedication and making sure that your devs know, how to work on those things. Now, we're speaking from a consumer perspective. We don't know the ins and out completely, but we have seen a couple times that, there has been some studios that have made it work. So yeah.
So a lot to look forward to in the next few months. But so far, with the announcements and hell, even the state of play, honestly, this was probably one of the better state of plays that I've seen this year, which was the first foray into the summer releases coming out over the next few months.
Yes.
As well, because I think every state of play before this most recent one kind of average to somewhat lackluster. You might pull one, maybe two games that you might be interested in, depending on what you saw. But this one was definitely one of the better ones. And touching into the fact that we have the next God of War game coming out as well.
Yep.
Which I'm looking forward to. Very, very big title. I'm not going to go too crazy with this because I will address some of the unnecessary backlash that this game has gotten. Because here's the thing: everyone is manufacturing some kind of discourse around God of War Law Fey, and I have no idea why. Because number one, people seem to forget what spin-offs are these days. You know, so we also know who Kratos' wife was. She was introduced, and there was a lot of lore in the game surrounding his wife, Faye. She fought Thor at one point or another. That was talked about in passing. She fought Kratos when they first met. The biggest question is, how did she even die before the events of the first game? Because the first game, the introduction was you're setting up her funeral, at that point.
Yeah.
And you only saw her in flashbacks. So as much as they had talked about Faye in a lot of cutscenes and backstory exposition, they really painted her up to be a character that were like, man, I wish I had to know more to go off of as far as her character development, because she was one of the main catalysts that helped shape Kratos into who he was after he did everything in the first 3 games, which was pretty much completely just destroy the whole pantheon. The whole Greek pantheon was just obliterated by him, all because he had a family spat with his father and all that stuff. Play the first 3 games; they're getting remade at this point, so we'll talk about that later. But the discourse behind, it's not a God of War game because you're not playing as Kratos, who is the God of War. I'm like, y'all don't know what y'all act like y'all don't know what a spinoff is, and then it's like she's a female, but then you're complaining about Stellar Blade as well, looking too young. I'm like, we can't win with people today. Either way, people just enjoy stuff. That's all I can really say. All right. And most of the ones that are talking trash about it, y'all gonna buy it anyway. Let's be real. Y'all gonna like gamers hate play stuff all the time. Y'all play stuff that y'all don't like, which is beyond me. Y'all are hypocrites, man. I just gotta call that out. So say what you want. I'm getting it day one. All the God of War games have all been bangers, and it's not like this is anything new. All right, suck it up or don't buy it. Plain and simple. Y'all are making something out of nothing, literally. And same thing with Stellar Blade 2. Don't buy it. This outrage is crazy. I mean, if you look for something to be miserable about, you're going to find it.
Chances are you will find it. And if you truly just are excited about a specific franchise and you're wanting to get more into the lore, sometimes spin-offs can get you really into the world. I'm excited to see where they go with this, to be honest. We have a couple of games that have done this now at this point. We recently just had Ghost of Yotei that came out, and we had a different character. And awesome. Ghost of Yotei was phenomenal. Yeah, Atsu. It was a great game to play. Hopefully, we do see one of these days it drop on PC or a different platform.
I hope so.
It would be amazing on PC.
It really would. It would really benefit from a higher frame rate, honestly. But we have some of these changes coming through the game industry, and it's kind of been exciting to see. Sometimes getting more female leads, seeing the differences in these stories, because we don't get to see that too often these days.
Definitely, games are like, I wouldn't say like more violent, more like games like the God of War series. They would come off as violent and very aggressive games, and then have a game like that as like a female lead is very different than the norm. But I don't think that hinders the game by any means. As you saw, Ghost of Yotei is just as good as the first one.
And it's a nice change of pace, because if you don't count God of War Ragnarok, where there were definitely segments where you played as Atreus, but he didn't have like a whole game dedicated to him just yet, and his playstyle was a bit more limited compared to playing as Kratos. Faye is technically the first character that we're getting that's not Kratos, that has a full game dedicated to her. and where the game takes place, where she's basically fighting and dealing with a bunch of mythical gods of war from different eras and different mythologies. You had Sekhmet, you had a few others. I think I forgot the red guy's name, but he's from the I can't think of it.
He's Southeast Asian.
Yeah.
I forgot exactly where, but he's part of like Southeast Asia.
Yeah. What is it called? Where they Mongolian, I think it was.
Yeah, I would have to fact check that, but yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Fact check it, but I think that's their version of that God of War. But Sekhmet, I recognize like right off the gate, and she's one of the most powerful gods of war out there. So
I'm really curious on how they're even gonna scale her, because she is like, on a power scale, she is technically the strongest and a first
By
for
far.
a lot of things. You know, she also goes into being the first vampire, and there's just a lot of things she's the first for, and so I'm very curious on how and they're gonna scale her in that game. Is it gonna be something where we become insanely strong, or is it gonna become something where we're a gimmick or something, just because she's gonna be so powerful, or a team up of some sort? So I'm very excited to see how they're gonna deal with her in this game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just like people like have something to look forward to in the next few months, because we took a 20-minute gameplay and then it was like, okay, so some loved it, some hated it, and some were just hating for the sake of hating. We don't know how this is going to develop or how it's going to play into the fact that this could open up other possibilities, because they're clearly indicating here that they're trying to expand just beyond Greek mythology and Norse mythology. Like they're like, hey, listen, like what if all these gods of war met these other mythical legendary
they converge
characters,
at some point.
Yeah.
you know? So
Go
they're making
around
a
the
whole
world.
yeah, kind of like a mythological multiverse.
Mhm.
Kind of sort of like a Valhalla for all these different types of gods, right? Like this is a place that they all end up, you know. It's interesting to see, and we also don't know how the game will play out. It could end up turning into some sort of Resident Evil twin where, you know, we started off Requiem with Grace and nobody thought Leon was going to be in the game. It shows up midway through, and we got this, you know, duality to what is going on. We could have the same thing happen in the new God of War where Kratos shows up. You know,
Very true.
And they could end up teaming up.
Yeah.
At some point. And not to mention Ragnarok ended after the events of Ragnarok destroying Asgard, and Kratos and Freya are pretty much teamed up now. They kind of went off to do their own thing, and then Atreus and Angerboda, if I recall correctly, kind of went off to, you know, I guess do like a coming of age, kind of like self-discovery kind of thing on his own at that point. So they branched off in several different directions, and I think I'm just kind of speculating. I could be wrong about this, but Faye could be the glue that kind of brings all this together, and we could end up having like a big like set piece where it's Freya, because Freya forgave Kratos for, you know, killing her son Balder and everything else like that, and then, you know, Atreus' character growth, you know, him figuring out his lineage of being a giant and everything like that, and you know the lore behind him. So they're really making this open ended. And then, like I said before, just to touch briefly into it, but we have remakes coming out of the first 3 games, which means T.C. Carson, who was the original voice of Kratos, is coming back. And he confirmed it. He confirmed it. So I'm just curious to see how that's going to play out, because God of War was just as big as Call of Duty back on the PS3 and PS2 days. And I think when God of War 3 got announced, that was when we had the first visual leap in graphics and visual fidelity when we saw Kratos on the PS3, all those years ago. And that was a banger of a game. So if they can recreate that, which I feel like they will, with these remakes,
sky's the limit.
we might be in some trouble. We might be in some trouble, fellas.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. There's only so much to look forward to. That's going to keep us busy for the next few months going into next year, and there's going to be so much to cover, so much to talk about, so much to showcase. And I was telling y'all before off record, I think this year is pretty much the rapture of game releases, because we're like getting inundated with so much. Nintendo's dropping stuff. These other devs are dropping stuff. I mean, Ocarina of Time just it broke the internet just off of the reveal on that.
I mean, we had that show up. Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts 4 finally. Yep.
We could continue. We could say that Capcom is still continuing their reigns of being supreme. With
Capcom is eating this year.
Yeah, showing off.
They're eating this year.
Veronica, dropping
Dragon's Dogma 2 DLC.
Dragon's Dogma DLC.
More Monster Hunter.
Yeah, more Monster Hunter. They're really doing their thing.
Onimusha 5.
And I believe that me and you, Leon, both played the demo. And I mean, it lived up to expectations. It did really well. It gave you just enough to get a feel for the game. And
I played it through 4 times.
Oh,
I played it through 4 times, mind you. I was addicted. I was a fiend. No, because it just felt. I don't mean to cut you off, but it just felt so good and so snappy, and they met my expectations of a longtime fan of the franchise, where I've been talking about for years. Like, what if they're cooking another Onimusha game in the works? And then lo and behold, we get this new reveal, and boy, they cooked. Pragmata, they cooked. Resident Evil Requiem, they cooked. Dragon's Dogma, kind of rough, but they eventually cooked. Same thing with Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter, a little rough around the edges, but at the core, solid game. It took them a bit to kind of get it dialed in, but it had enough of a support base where they can keep putting out content. They've been transparent with the players, and it's new territory for them with this RE engine and the limitations of what it can and can't do. But overall, I mean, they've been more consistent than they have made, more than the mistakes that they made to kind of correct themselves. And, they've really dialed it in. And even their post-launch support, because I was thinking to myself, man, Dragon's Dogma 2, banger of a game. It was just a lot like the first one, but I'm like, it's been 2 years. We haven't heard anything about post-launch support, and patience is a virtue. Now we got Dark Arisen for Dragon's Dogma 2, performance updates, quality of life content updates like Capcom. I'm telling you, y'all brought it back.
And
also, it's a good year where we're seeing a lot of competition, and competition only just breeds more excellence. We've seen it across the board in the industry so far. We're getting tons of remakes. We're getting a lot of new IPs. Everybody's just trying to compete. And, we have the ending of the year coming soon, where we got GTA 5 or GTA 6 that's going to drop, and everybody's trying to get a piece of the pie before, we got that, giant release. So it's kind of just pushing the fold forwards. It's exciting to see. We got tons of remakes coming through the Summer Games Fest, through State of Play, through Nintendo Direct. I mean, God, we had Xbox Showcase show off the new Gears, with a giant visual upgrade, a kind of throwback to the events that started Gears. So it's exciting to see these things kind of come up and come to life.
So does this predate Gears 1
E-Day?
So what they're saying, E-Day is forgive me because I can't remember the term that they used, but it's like the E is supposed to stand for essentially the start to everything, right? Where it's I'd have to search it up, and I'll actually do that really quick. Is
Gears is kind of like nostalgia for me with the original Xbox 360 title, and that was going back to the days of Halo 3 as well.
Emergence Day.
Emergence.
That's what it
Emergence
stands
Day.
for. Yeah.
Long history with Gears. Just late nights gaming on that with the homies, getting into and back when Xbox Live was still brand new and still a thing, and all the interactions and that, man. I'm
Back when Xbox Live was a juggernaut.
The top dog.
yes,
That's-
Yes.
Yeah, there was nothing messing
Yes.
with the OG Xbox Live for sure.
not even close. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, because Gears does have a special place in my heart. Like, am I as hyped about it as I used to be? Not really, but the franchise has never really let me down either. Like, it delivered on what it set out to do as a franchise, but I think it's kind of in the same boat for me as Halo. And I've been playing Halo ever since the original Xbox back when I was like 11 years old. And now they're bringing back Combat Evolved remaster on Unreal Engine 5, which kind of scares me a little bit, because we know how that typically goes with the Unreal Engine 5 remasters, as we talked about it earlier. But I'm cautiously optimistic. But I try to stay tuned into a lot of what I think I can expect from a lot of these titles that are coming out these next few months. But here's the thing. People, we're going to have plenty to do. We just have to hope that they deliver,
There will be tons to do. If you don't jive with something, that's all right. There's plenty of other things dropping. We have Xbox that's trying to do this sort of revitalization campaign and bring back some of those old feelings of OG Xbox Live, original Xbox. I mean, they even changed their color scheme for the logo back to that green that they used to have, which is it's pretty fucking sick, to be honest.
Thoughts on Fable, the new Fable, now that we finally have a reveal on that? I want to hear you.
I mean, yeah, we had 30 minutes. I think it was 20 minutes
30 minutes,
gameplay.
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
Fable looked really good, for sure. Something I'm looking forward to, as someone that was obsessed with Fable. Didn't really care for 3 too much, if I'm being honest. So I'm really hoping that it really captures what Fable 2 brought to a lot of people. That's the main thing for me that I'm looking forward to in Fable. I mean, visually it looked good, but story and just the atmosphere of the game, I really hope it captures what Fable 2 was, because that was the biggest, and I think, of the title.
Can I draw a fair comparison? And this is actually a good comparison, not a bad one. And I think you guys know what I might say in this regard.
Good.
So if you were to put, and I'm talking just from visual aesthetic and even some of the gameplay, but when I was watching most of the gameplay up to the combat of the new Fable, I was getting like a heavy vibe of Hogwarts Legacy to some extent. Because if you look at those games side by side, you would almost think that they were developed by the same people, because it's kind of got like that kind of like semi-realistic but also kind of colorful look to it. The characters are dressed the same, almost like it takes place in the same kind of time period to a certain extent, even down to the combat. And then not even that, but we're getting a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy that's in development, that's been confirmed as well. So all I'm gonna say is, if Hogwarts Legacy and Fable drop in the same year, if Hogwarts Legacy 2 and Fable drop in the same year, we're gonna have a problem. A good one. Because it's just like,
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different types of visual aesthetic, visual styles of different games.
Beautiful looking game, though.
Very nice.
Yeah, it definitely kind of has that sort of look that Hogwarts Legacy had. I think it works to its benefit so much. Fable is kind of going to be that game where it's this whimsical fantasy. You know, it seems like your choices are going to really, really matter in this game. They kind of went over the systems of things not just being good or bad, but up to how people perceive them. And they showed a little bit of that in the gameplay showcase, which was honestly really interesting. They talked about how you have thousands of NPCs that have their own types of lives, dialogues going on. So it's really going to seem like a living, breathing world. Love to get my hands on that, honestly, and see how that works.
Now, this just came to me on a similar note, though, that I wanted to bring up, especially with you, Austin, is Blood of Dawn Walker.
Yeah.
And its similarities to Witcher.
Yeah.
Witcher franchise.
It's looking really good. A lot of the showcase and gameplay that they showed, I think even one of the trailers they showed like modern day and it leading back to Blood of Dawn Walker. That was a pretty hilarious introduction that they had where we had the delivery driver dropping off a package of blood. I was like, what are we even looking at here? But it ties back into the game, and it's interesting to see their take. You know, being able to be sort of like a normal human during the day, nighttime being this vampire. I don't know where they're gonna go with all of this, but so far it's been very compelling to see. And I mean, that's all we can really ask for when it comes to these games.
That is the first game, I believe, in September that does drop, coming out on September 3rd. So that is the game that kind of leads
to the madness, chaos,
the holes in everyone's wallets. It starts all with that game right there.
I will be playing them all.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but besides the podcast, we might actually be doing some coverage on some of these games. To be honest, if there's some of the things that we really do enjoy, we want to go into more specifics in any of these releases coming up. There's so many, so it's definitely going to be a lot on our plate to try out and play. We got a lot of indies coming through.
A lot of sequels.
It's
on top of
exciting year.
You have, just going down the list, they showed off Alien Isolation 2, which was a huge title. I mean, Alien's been around for years and years and years and years. The game
close to what, over 40 something years now.
Yes, with the movies, and I mean, if you tie in Predator, the whole lore of Alien, it's been around forever. Alien Isolation was a successful drop, their first game. I mean, Alien Isolation 2, I would imagine, is just going to be just as good. You have that coming out as one of a sequels. You have other sequel that did pretty well on their first game, Mortal Shell 2. Gives you that soul-like, a little bit different, not one for one copy, but same aesthetic. You have that coming out.
Lords of the Fallen 2.
Lords of the Fallen 2. The list goes on. For, I mean, indie lovers, you have Grounded 2. Good game to play with friends.
First game was phenomenal. Yeah.
Grounded. It was very different. It reminded me, I'm going to expose myself age. I'm an old man. Honey, I Shrunk
the Kids.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That's what it reminds me of. Just kids in the backyard. You got ant monsters, bugs. Yeah, it gives the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibes. So it appeals to the younger crowd, but if you know, you know. That's what it. I mean, right when I saw the game, that's what it reminded me of. Um, and
You have
then,
Persona.
bro, I shed a tear.
Something that you could
That's all
dive
him.
into.
Oh
That's
man,
all him right here. That's all
I
him right
mean,
there. So he's
I've
he's going
been.
to keep us. He is going to keep us in the loop over here on that.
You could ask Leon and Austin here. All
Yep.
I wanted, as all these amazing games were dropping, all I wanted was to see a letter P and a number 6, and they gave it to me. And I will say with the showcases, um, because we were supposed to do this podcast a little bit earlier, which I'm happy we did wait. Because with the showcases, they spread out all the games amongst multiple showcases. Where back in the day, if you kind of like had, they would overlap. Like Xbox would show something, PlayStation would show that game too. Like they would show their individual things. Well, this year they spread out all the games, all the titles. And I think that was an amazing thing with the showcases. Like State of Play, I don't think showed many. If like there's good, they showed not that many platform games. Like a lot of the stuff they showed in State of Play is like was very like PlayStation exclusive or like titles that are known for Sony that really made the State of Play so amazing this year. Um and then when you go into Summer Game Fest showed off big titles, a lot of titles. And then just going into Xbox and a lot of people, I'll be honest, for us, since we haven't been really on Xbox and playing Xbox games, we were kind of like, we're not too sure what they're gonna show. But come to find out, they covered Persona 4 Revival remake, and then they dropped probably the biggest announcement because I think it's been about 10 years, no Persona, and as much as I love P5, I think that it's run its course. I think it's done as many collabs, as many spin-offs that they could possibly do. I love Joker, but man, if I saw him in one more game, I would probably give up. Um, but the
Not
fact
to
that
mention the spin-offs as well.
the spin-offs of that game, I mean, Joker was in Smash. He was. They did multiple collabs in Gotcha games. Um, Speaking of a new Gotcha game that just recently came out, NTE, they have an album collab where you could get Persona 5 music in NTE. So they're still pushing out collabs for P5 to this day.
Yeah.
So to see Persona 5 showcased on Xbox was insane. And then going into Nintendo Direct, I mean, who would have thought Nintendo of all the showcases would drop Kingdom Hearts 4? Like a Square Enix, and Square Enix being so close to Sony throughout the years, everyone thought it was going to be shown at State of Play or Summer Game Fest as with PlayStation showing it off of some sort, but Nintendo showing it off was I think the one of the biggest surprises for me and multiple people that we know that of all Nintendo was the one to drop that news. And yeah, I think all the
Yeah.
showcases were amazing this year. I don't know if they all worked together with each other, but
It kind
the
of felt like these like those OG E3 days. But it seemed a lot more coordinated this
yeah,
time around.
it didn't for me it didn't feel like a war. You know how like the console wars,
Yeah.
like Xbox had to show their version of a game and PlayStation had to show their version of the game, and you always had those like exclusive contents like the CODs, like it would get early on PlayStation, or like they would do like a weird collab with Sony one year, and then next year they're doing collabs with Xbox, and it's like I felt like this
Yeah.
year you didn't have that war amongst consoles, and it was just like let's embrace gamers in general across the board, across every console, PC, everything, and how they spread it out, the games and all the multiple titles that they did drop. I think
Yeah.
they did really well for a lot of the showcases. I was very surprised on this year for sure.
Yeah,
They
I
all
think we
go ahead.
kind
I'm
of have
sorry.
to give it up. Yeah, we kind of have to give it up to really these companies, these devs, these publishers. Um, a lot of them moving over to knowing how important and crucial it is to have your game on multiple platforms. Back in the day, we kind of heavily relied on just, a company going to a specific console and sticking with them. And things have changed quite a bit since then. A lot of these consoles, they have to give more of an incentive for people to want to go ahead and game on them. Nintendo right now, the most obvious thing they have is, it being portable, being able to play your game almost anywhere. When we look at Xbox or PlayStation, it's a little bit of a harder sell because we have things like the Steam machine that are slated to come out hopefully by the end of the year, and we have PCs where most people are primarily gaming on, if they're enthusiasts, and we see a lot more enthusiasts now, in this industry that are showing up. So it's something that we have to keep in mind, and I think that's why things have seemed a little bit more coordinated, because we just have all these releases showing up on every platform, and it's generally nice to see.
So, while you guys were also kind of touching into that, um, I was kind of dialing in to the other releases coming out in the next 2 months alone. Um, just other things to look forward to. So much,
There
but
really is so many games. You
but um, but as far as relevant titles, I'm not going to go through every single one, just the ones that are the most relevant overall as far as like franchises that starting in July, and I think this is going to be one of the biggest ones by far, at least for me and you, Josh, which is Granblue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok expansion. Following that very closely. And then for you, Austin, because you have a lot to look forward to, for you specifically, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced.
yes.
Yep, gonna be my actual introduction into Black Flag because I never played the original.
One of the best ones by far.
This one, the introduction to naval battle was peak.
Yeah, some would say it is the best pirate game to date.
Yes. And the fact that they're making it better. But one thing I want to say across the board, just across the entire board, is the devs and these companies, one thing they're doing right, and I'm glad they started doing it, is thank you for listening to the feedback that you have been getting from the player base and not just pumping out shit just because you think it's going to sell. Because granted, yes, gamers can be a little bit fickle, a little bit hypocritical in some things, but when they're valid about things that they want on things that are good at the end of the day. But that's also a case of just the small minority speaking up for the vast majority that actually want to see the industry improve as a whole from a quality perspective, a cost perspective, and a content perspective. So thank you for listening to the feedback that you have been getting from regular people like me, Josh, Austin, everybody else, just regular gamers that just want to have a good time and have a good hobby to indulge into at the end of a stressful day, at the end of a stressful week. Just kind of turn off your brains, fire it up, and just go. Because we live in a time now where entertainment is what is keeping people grounded, keeping people, I guess you could say focused, and sane to a certain extent, not to get too crazy, about real life things, but um, entertainment and gaming has become so big now, and I just love how accessible it's becoming to even the average person, casual gamer, to the most hardcore. At the end of the day, there's something in it for everybody to indulge in and enjoy. You know,
Yeah.
So this is probably one of the best years that I can sit here and say that I've been excited for really anything, and I've been gaming, ever since I was 5 years old, man, just to kind of see how this industry had evolved
Yeah.
for better and for worse in some cases, but things can change.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a journey that's been a big part of my life and everybody else's that I grew up, meeting along the way while I was gaming. That's always going to be a part of me. Like, listen, I'm just going to sit here and say it. I'll probably be gaming into my 60s, 70s. I mean, hell,
I hope so.
You got like one thing that I love, not to detract too much from what we're talking about, but you go online on YouTube and there were these two elderly ladies. I forget her name. I think her name was Shirley. I could be wrong, but she is like the Skyrim lady. She's like the Skyrim grandma. I forget her name, and I like watching her content because she's so passionate about it, and she collects a lot of stuff, a lot of gaming, and she's in her 80s. And there's another one that does the same thing, and it's just like, I want that to be me because I will never be the guy that says, "Oh, you're too old to be doing that." Like, no, like live life. If you have a job and you're making your money, spend it on whatever you want as far as recreational hobbies. It's just like, like that goes back to like high school, where it's just like, oh, you play video game. Like, no, like who cares? And you know what's funny? Most of the people that were talking shit were closet nerds anyway. They just didn't want to get judged for being into some shit that everyone else liked because they wanted to be the cool kids,
the biggest medium that we see of that right now that has shown that is anime. So
True.
Listen, nobody can sit there and talk about how you're too old for something or this or that.
That's true.
Anime is
It's very true.
The biggest thing that I personally, when people actually sat down and watched some things, because growing up, oh, you watching them cartoons and stuff and kid stuff, and then they sit down and catch a glimpse of like back then, I mean, American people that didn't really know, weren't too in touch about anime. You had Toonami, stuff like that were like, I remember putting Death Note and Dragon Ball Z, and then people really sitting down and like, wait, this Death Note, this ain't for kids, like, you know what I mean? Like, this man is really just taking people out, and you're like, hold up, like, okay, it's not some little kid stuff, There's
especially when Swim kicked in.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's some brutal stuff out, I mean, that they had that really made, I mean, if I don't know if you guys know, it's a OG, but if you know what Monster is, it's pretty dark anime that catches a lot of people off guard, but not to lose track of like what we were talking here with the podcast. But yeah, with anime or entertainment in a whole, it's how it is nowadays. It really does feel nice that a lot of this stuff is more accepted. I almost wish like I could go back in time and be 20 years old again and be, this much into gaming, because it's like,
it's a lot different.
Yeah, it's a lot different. Like the world, how they view it, and like, there is some people who like just look at it, the money aspect and like that, but like it's so accepted now. It's everywhere now. I mean, my mom would be in the living room playing PlayStation 5 like nowadays, and it's just like, what the heck? It's like,
yeah, and
it's very accepted across the board.
to kind of bring it all together, really, it has built a lot of community, and that's like been the most beautiful thing about it. Um, a lot of people now have built community around these games, these franchises, uh, media in general. I mean, we've even had a crazy year of movies coming out, and that bringing people together. It's been really nice, to be honest, and most of us here have forged our relationships through these different types of medium, um, franchises, games, etc. So it's you could see how healthy and positive things can actually be. Sometimes we have a lens that we view the internet through, and we see a lot of negativity, but there is a lot of positivity out there when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I just to agree with you on that, but just remembering the days that, a kid do anything bad or aggressive back then. News coverage, or you get that one on person, it's them damn video games, you know what I mean? He got that from Grand Theft Auto, and or like, it's stuff like that. And then, nowadays, where you don't hear stuff like that anymore. You don't like video games causing this and causing that. It's nice to see that it's so accepted, and it's just kind of like a part of life. And um you're seeing celebrities, maybe it's like a younger generation thing, not going into, but the baby boomers, you know how they are. But just younger generation, our generations coming into the limelight. You see a lot of celebrities that are in touch with the communities, entertainment community, gaming community, even dabbling into it. You see that a lot, and I think that's a huge positive thing for gaming. And if this gaming continues to how this year was going, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah, we have
pretty
nothing to look forward to. We do
yeah.
have these collaborations between celebrities in gaming too. I mean, God of War, the latest new franchise or latest new game that we got coming out.
Yeah.
We got it. It's basically we got Deborah in there going ahead and playing
Yeah.
Lafe. So it's
Um,
nice to see.
you got
And
the if you follow the weekend is grinding Persona 5 Royal. Faithfully, he posts about it often, how his grind in Persona. Um, and it's nice to I will also say it's nice with collabs nowadays, where it doesn't seem forced. They're not like forced collabs. I feel like a
no,
lot of the celebrities that are doing collabs know their shit. Like, they
yeah,
actually play the
yeah.
games. It's not no like, yo, we're coming out with this game. We'll shoot you couple stacks. Just act like you're playing your game. You know what I mean? I feel like nowadays a lot of
No,
collabs, they're doing their work. They're doing
we
their
have
research
people
on
that are
things.
genuinely interested in this media and in gaming. It's nice to see. It's not like the old days. And not to throw any shade, not to throw anything bad, but we had The Rock debuting the OG Xbox console. Um, didn't make too much sense,
That was
but
that was kind of an experience in and of
Yeah.
itself.
you know, I would say it was a treat. It was, I guess, cool to see, but
it was different.
definitely,
I remembered it. That's for sure.
definitely random. And we turn the page to how it is these days, and we just had a super successful TV series, Fallout, where everybody in there knew their thing and were heavily invested into the franchise. So there's a lot to speak on when it comes to that. But so far, there's a lot of community, a lot of positivity, a lot of good things going on in this industry. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we're kind of here wanting to start this podcast and speak on these things. I mean, even us three here met through gaming, through online. So it just goes to show, what are things like these days, and, what we can experience. And these are things that we can speak on, perspective that can be shown that might be a little bit different than others.
And speaking of how we all met, the great game of Final Fantasy, we still haven't talked about the reveal that Square Enix dropped. I mean, Revelations, the final big part 3.
Oh boy.
And not only am I excited about that, but we're getting some more Vincent Valentine, the GOAT. We're getting more
Where
Vincent, and the
to
fact that we're getting some
begin?
gameplay, and we're getting maybe
We got the whole ensemble playable this time.
maybe
Yep.
yeah, maybe Square Enix even doubles down and remakes Vincent's game.
Dirge of Cerberus.
Yes.
Sleeper hit.
I am praying for that. I mean,
You and me both. They have every incentive and reason to do so.
Yes.
Because I'll be honest, Vincent is one of the fan favorites of the Final Fantasy franchise, because it's basically a franchise. You had Crisis Core, you had Ever Crisis, and I mean you had a few spin-off titles
And
that segued into Final Fantasy VII.
And the one thing with all those spin-offs, Vincent was there since the beginning.
He was a Turk.
Yes. If you know the lore of 7, I mean, he was there since day one. He knows everything, and he's there at the end. And I mean, he's a fan favorite amongst all the edge lords, the females. I mean, I remember when they first showed him off in the remake, when they just showed the coffin. I mean,
Listen, you're a female this year gaming, you got lots to eat. You're a male, you got lots to. We all got lots to eat.
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah, for real.
Do what you will with that information, of course.
Yeah,
figuratively and literally.
That's what's been great. We got FF7 Revelations. Maybe Square Enix is stepping up to the plate to battle Capcom a little bit. Sure does seem that way in some ways.
They took a lot of feedback as well with Revelations. So I watched the video on where they improved on a lot of quality of life things with Rebirth compared to Revelations. And one of the main things that was a pain point for a lot of people was the mini games and the design of the mini games and the rewards for the mini games. So what they decided to do, because this is coming from me, where I played Rebirth on both PC and PlayStation 5. Everything was strong about Rebirth, but the mini games, while they weren't bad, they had some balancing issues where I think that you really they were optional, but it was like you had to do the mini games to get the good shit.
Yeah.
Square decided that, hey, we heard your feedback. We're pretty much going to say we're going to lock the in-game progression to actually playing the game, and with the mini games, the only thing that and the mini games are skippable, but what they did, which is smart, is instead of locking a lot of vital progression to mini games, where it's like if you wanted to get the best weapon, you had to do said mini game, they said, you know what, we're just going to just say play the mini games and you get a cosmetic outfit item, which doesn't affect gameplay at all. It just changes your aesthetic look. And I was like, finally. Yeah. Because here's the thing. Final Fantasy games, all of them most of them, because I don't think mini games really hit until 7 and onward, when they made the jump from 2D to 3D. So 7 had mini games, 8, 9, 10, 10, all of them had mini games which were optional, but it was a case of, you had to indulge in them to get like, the best weapon for those characters, best armor, whatever the case may be. But they decided to say, you know what? We want you to indulge in the gameplay and combat as much as possible and not be overly distracted by mini games. The mini games are just that. They're side things to do for fun. They're not vital to progression to be OD powerful and, game breakingly strong, which I like, because Final Fantasy VII Remake overall has probably some of the best combat that doesn't feel like it's busted, because it's kind of like a mix between hack and slash, but also like somewhat freeform turn-based, if that makes sense. But you have a lot of freedom to experiment with different things. Combat was like the best part. It was like a power fantasy badass. You could string together some cool team ups and things like that. So they just said, "Listen, we heard the feedback. We want to make the mini games a little less tedious, and we're not going to inundate you with them to where you have to do it to enjoy to get the full experience." Just like, no, do the mini games. You'll probably get a cosmetic item or an outfit, but other than that, fight bosses, get stronger, grind like a traditional RPG, and you get the stuff that you want eventually. Thank you. Because this
And
is what I mean.
if I can touch on this a little bit, just to kind of tie back into how the competition breeds excellence. We talk about combat in FF7, right? I have two things to speak about here. We talk about combat in FF7 Remake. We had Expedition 33 drop and show the world how exciting turn-based combat can be.
Yes.
And when you have things like that happen, it really throws Square Enix back to the drawing board to see what they can do to improve on some of the combat. And we kind of saw a little glimpse of that with the new Revelations, right? That's exciting to see. The second point I have when it comes to the mini games, right, and them talking about going ahead and just making it purely cosmetic. I'm going to be a little bit biased here, but we kind of saw that in Stellar Blade in the original when they had the Goddess of Nike collab that they did. And we had those mini games that you can do to receive the cosmetics and items for Eve.
But they were fun though.
Yes, they were extremely fun. Extremely fun. So we could kind of see how you have this competition going around and happening, and it's just only improving the games that we love.
I will agree with you on that for sure.
And when you get to feedback portion, player base, you listen to player feedback. It also makes the player base feel involved with the development of your creation. Because ultimately, here's the thing. You have to make something for the fans, otherwise your product is just not going to sell and do as well as you might think that it will. And granted, at the same time, no, you're not going to please everybody. That's impossible. But feedback and catering to your players, because both old, young, and new, is pretty much the best practice at the end of the day, because a lot of these franchises have pretty much been around for the better part of 15, 20, 30 plus years. Final Fantasy dates back to early 90s, like what, 91, 92?
Yeah.
89, between 89 and 92, I think, with the very first one, and how far that franchise has come. I would like them to go back to their Duodecim days on the PSP, because they had the Cydia Duodecim, and that was like an arena style fighter, which was probably one of the most fun I've ever played on a handheld. I'm like, damn, they can do this on a handheld. Yeah. Imagine what they could do on console. And they tried it with the Cydia NT, but here's the problem with the Cydia NT. They had all the combat of an arena fighter for Dissidia on the PSP, but they stripped out all the things that made it fun, like the RPG elements, the character progression, the customization. It was more of an arcade game because that's pretty much what it was. And I think they kind of missed the plot of making it too competitive. You know, like you had different builds, different weapons, different play styles, and just things to experiment with. Because I sank so many hours into Dissidia and Dissidia Duodecim on the PSP, um, because it was just fun.
Yeah.
And hop on a LAN ad hoc and fight your boys just for fun. If Dissidia NT that came out a couple years ago now at this point, if they had preserved the core of what made Dissidia fun, on top of preserving the arena style combat because it was a 3v3 fighting game, they would have had a banger on their hands with the visual fidelity, the gameplay improvements, but it had none of the makings of a game that felt like it was an action RPG as well, you know, where you felt like you were getting progress, stronger, unlocking abilities and moves, the character roster. It's just like they stripped out everything. Like, don't take things away from people, give them what they're used to, and then add more to it to give them variety. Because I will say this: too much variety is never a bad thing, as opposed to making something streamlined. You really have to like know what you're doing when you're streamlining an experience, because that should come down to quality of life and making things accessible. Looking at you, Fortnite, with your bloated menus, and you, Call of Duty, as well, where you inundate the player base with like everything. There's like a menu for everything, and it's horrible. You know,
You got a Hulu layout for a game.
They really do.
you know, it's like Netflix, but 10 times worse, where you gotta go through different layers just to, you know, update your game settings, man. You know, so don't do that. So whoever is your UI manager or your UI developer for those games, please go back to the drawing board because your menu's bloated and it sucks. All right. You got to hit like 10 different options just to get to the game that you're trying to play, you know. But besides that, Square, they are definitely seeming like they're making strides to stay in the game. They were never really out of it, but I will say one of their stumbling points was Final Fantasy 16 being timed exclusive, and then it took way too long to come out on Xbox. I think that game should have been multi-platform within its first year of release, and I think that kind of hurt them because Final Fantasy 16 was a phenomenal game, but it was limited to only the player base that had a PlayStation at the time, and then eventually Steam got it, and then eventually Xbox got it almost like a year after Steam got it, and I think they staggered it too much, and I think that kind of hurt them overall. So hopefully, with the 17th installment in the franchise, we better see, you know, crazy.
Man. I'm hoping for a they don't go the 17 route. I would be excited for a remake of one of the OGs on a level
8.
of what they did. Man,
8 or 10. 8 or 10.
I think 8 is the most slept on Final Fantasy that was around 7 because 7 was really hype. A lot of people
8 was
a lot of people love 9. 9 is really good.
8 was my first ever Final Fantasy game that I ever played.
Yeah, 8 needs some love for sure.
No, really, what they need to do 13 with new combat.
I feel like 13 still would have been new. I would even say 10 is still somewhat.
10 they could pull off because 10 was PS2. They could pull that off.
It got its remaster.
It did get an HD remaster, yes.
HD remaster, so it's still. I feel like 8 falls into 8 was PlayStation, like PlayStation. So it's been
it was PS1.
Yeah, PS1. I mean, 8 would be a big surprise. And then I mean, they might be surprise us with 6. You know, with all this Kefka content they're giving us. If you play Final Fantasy 14,
you know,
with the amount of Kefka stuff. which going into just future stuff that we may cover with just FF14 and coming in July, we're getting more content for future expansion Evercold. On that, we're getting a unique class shown in
Yep.
July.
Second fan fest that we have showing. We're getting the 10 class that's going to be
Yes.
shown off. There's just a ton.
Yeah,
There's tons of
Square
coverage.
Enix is doing their thing. Also, not to jump off of the boat of Square Enix, but also a big announcement in the MMO scene was Guild Wars 3. Jumping into putting out more content in the MMO scene, as I mean we all know and heard, MMOs are hard to make. Traditional
And hard to
ones.
maintain. And hard to
Yes.
maintain.
Yeah, I'm talking about your traditional WoW, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars, because they're the big three. When it comes to traditional, you have ESO, you do have your Korean MMO, but it's very different.
Ion.
Yeah, Ion, which is also dropping in September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arcade Chronicles.
Arcade
and,
Chronicles, which is still
Vindictus
Yeah.
Defying Fate.
there's a lot coming out, even in the MMO scene, and I think Arcade Chronicles, they are starting to show more content on that beautiful looking game. You really hope that it lives up to the hype, and because it looks amazing. Same thing with
Combat looks
Invictus.
insane.
Yes. But yeah, Guild Wars 3, I mean, big drop in the MMO scene that has a lot of people excited. Which, going back to stuff that Austin covered with competition in the scene, Guild Wars 3, drops a banger, and it lives up to the hype, and it starts putting some pressure on WoW and Final Fantasy, the big two that are kind of like neck and neck.
Neck and neck.
It's like whoever's dropping the expansion is kind of like what's hot at the moment. To have a big third option, and maybe it gets what's called Bethesda back in the scene. One of the saddest fall offs of a gaming company, but maybe Guild Wars 2 kind of kicks ESO out of the scene, and Bethesda goes back to the drawing board, maybe switch their engine. Yeah, switch
Yeah.
that engine of
been-
yours and drop some games for
They've
us.
been using they've been using Creation Engine for too long, and that was even a variation of it when they even switched over to Unreal Engine 5 for the Skyrim remaster as well,
Yeah. And then
for better or worse.
and also, yeah, to go into Bethesda, they did show off 2 games. They showed off Elder Scrolls Skyrim multiplayer. You're like, okay, and they showed a zombies Fallout. Yeah, and they showed that off. Did you guys see that?
No, I did
Oh
not.
yes, you have Fallout zombies and Elder Scrolls Skyrim multiplayer, and it's one of those things. It's like, how long?
I don't have much to say.
Yeah,
I'm just
I don't have much
gonna
to
leave
say.
it there.
We can leave it there. Please,
Um,
please. But
I'll keep it at this. I respect them as a company. I think there's a lot that they can do. I think there's great creatives behind that company.
we just want.
I think
we want to see you back on the top a little bit.
They just
Yeah,
need, they just
yeah.
need better. They just need better engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody, we would all love to see it. We really would. So hopefully they have some stuff cooking. We'll have to see with whatever we have coming up. in the next couple of months. I know at the end of the year we have the Game of Year, so we got that to look forward to. Plenty of other things.
Game
Yeah.
awards, a bunch of
Wars is
stuff,
going to be
so-
insane. And can I just touch on one thing real quick while we're still somewhat on the topic of MMOs? And then because this is going to be like a bit of an underdog kind of situation because they built up a lot of anticipation and hype for the alpha/beta of their game to come out and to be pretty much disappointing compared to what we saw. And I hate to say it, but I really want to see more for Chrono Odyssey because boy was that rough. Because those trailers and everything that we saw up until they had their open play test for it was not even remotely close to what they advertised. And I'm just like, what am I looking at here? So they've gone dark in like the past year, give or take, since the play. It's been a little over a year,
They,
right? Since the last play test.
Yeah, playtest wise, they've gone dark. I'm a huge Chrono Odyssey follower. They give us updates here and there. On the drawing board, they did push back to all content of the game till 2027, not really giving us a time period in 2027. I will say they really took a lot of people's feedback from that pretty rough drop that they did and went back to
Yes.
the drawing board. If you follow their social, they have dropped a decent amount of dev content on their approaches on visuals, combat, the aesthetic of the game, and what they're really working on, which is good to see. A company, you know, in their eyes could have been at the draw, like at their final point, and be like, "Oh, this is our game," and they released it, and people didn't care for it, and to not be scared to start over, it's good to see, and that would be a game if they live up.
It has
to
potential.
Yes, for sure.
It does.
Definitely does.
Because, like I said, they had those trailer showcases that came out, and I'm like, wow, this game looks phenomenal. I hope hype. Then the playtest came out, and then playing it, and I'm like, the hell happened? This is not even close to the same game. It looked rough. It looked rugged. It looked unfinished, and I'm just like, so what was all that you showcased in those trailers? And this is nothing like what we got when the playtest came out. And I could understand if it had like some bugs and everything here and there, but it was like the gameplay, the visual quality. I don't know. It just it felt like it was still like kind of like a bit of a bare bones build. So we'll see. I mean, 2027 will give them a lot of time. But what's going to help them in the long term up to this point is like Josh was saying, is constantly updating their player base, and then this is going to segue into one of my most anticipated MMOs coming out, which I really enjoyed that play test because of the potential that it had, was Vindictus Defying Fate. Because that game, when it first came out, it was hinting towards being mostly a single player experience, but then it changed into being more closely to what the original Vindictus was like, which was more multiplayer focused as well, but it was more like a dungeon crawler. It looked great, played well, phenomenal. It had a lot of potential, definitely needed some work in some areas, but I enjoyed that a hell of a lot more than Chrono Odyssey because I was really like vibing with what the visual aesthetic was like. The gameplay felt good, the classes, the progression.
Yeah, we both played it. It was good.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was a little challenging too. It was a little challenging.
It was.
You know?
It was. That's the main thing that I remember about it the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah, but it forces you to utilize the mechanics to play better, and it didn't feel clunky. I'm like, this can only get better, and I want to hear more from them about that within the next few months towards the end of the year, because they've gone silent, but they got better feedback from me than the feedback that I gave for Chrono Odyssey at this point. So, but this is circling back to what Josh was saying, that MMOs are hard to make and they're hard to maintain, because they're only going to be as good as their post-launch content and post-launch support. New World Eternium is a prime example of this, and I think that came down to also the publisher being Amazon and some executive decisions that were being made that kind of hurt otherwise the potential of what could have been a really good game with post-launch support. But one developer that is currently doing it right now, which they segued from an MMO into the single player realm, and this game kind of went through a few years of revisions, and we didn't know what the game was going to be like until it finally launched. And this is kind of delving into post-launch support being done right, because they completely go off of player feedback, like I've been mentioning earlier. Crimson Desert.
Do it.
And I came from Black Desert. I played Black Desert for years, and I've sank at least 5, maybe 6,000 hours, and that's on the low end compared to other people that I've known who played the game for 10,000 plus hours, and even more than that, ever since the game launched. So Crimson Desert was an interesting case because of the simple fact that it started off where I think it was going to be an expansion to Black Desert, but then branched off to where it was going to be more or less a single player story that was going to have some multiplayer elements. So that game has gone through some different revisions over the last 6 to 8 years of its development time, or so, however long. I think it was 6 to 8 years. Maybe I'm lowballing it or highballing it, but I was kind of scared for that game for a while, because I'm like, there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of hints of the MMO in there, and it's like it started off as an MMO, but then they branched off it into it being single player. And then when it finally launched, it was almost like they took a gamble with whatever they thought that they wanted it to be. There were some internal issues with executive choices being made as far as the direction that the game was eventually going to go into that could have hurt the game long term. Because they essentially wanted a team of yes men. They didn't really want anybody to question any creative direction that the game was going to go in post-launch or during its development time. And I'm glad they got that sorted out after the game launched. And here we are almost 3 months or so later, and this game is constantly, and I mean constantly, every week to every other week, having stuff added to it for free.
Yeah, they just had a major patch. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
It was. Yeah. If I had to go out on a limb and take a guess with the way that they're doing the post-launch support, I wouldn't be surprised if they were eventually going to squeeze in a hint of some kind of a multiplayer element, not full-blown MMO, but multiplayer, because the fact that, number one, I follow this game probably more closely than any other game that I think is coming out this year, because I know what to get. But Crimson Desert has been such an enigma to me in a good way. I'm like, well, what are they going to do next?
Yeah.
Because it's intriguing. You don't know what they're going to add, because they keep making it better overall.
Yeah, I mean, what we can really see is, like, behind a lot of these games right now is passion, just tons of it. These devs are pouring out their passion into these games, and some of them are starting off a little rough around the edges, like Crimson. But you see that passion in the game, and you can understand where they're kind of going with it. And we see the post-launch support. Yeah.
This reminds me of something too, and I meant to bring this up, but what game has been out for quite some time now, for the better part of like almost 8 years or so. And I think this game, and I'm surprised none of us have played it yet because it's been on our bucket list, but this game, I will say, and quote, this game has probably had the biggest redemption arc in like the last 8 years, and that is No Man's Sky.
Yep.
That game has come such a long way from how it started off to where it is now. And this is something that we'll probably discuss later on down the road because we can probably go down a whole rabbit hole with this, which is going to segue into another game that we've already played, mostly me and Austin here. He probably knows what I'm about to bring up. There's another game that's out right now that's kind of like No Man's Sky in its own right.
Star Citizen.
Yep. And infinite universe, infinite possibilities, crazy post-launch support. Because
technically pre-launch support because game is not even officially out, but
it's been like 10 years.
True.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with that game.
And then what was it? Squadron 44, which is like the
Squadron 42.
Squadron 42, yeah. The single player spinoff.
And there's been more details. Yeah.
You got Gary Oldman, Mark Hamill, and other stuff. So I want to see more on that. So anything Squadron 44, anything Star Citizen, talk to this man right here. he's the go-to for that.
I love my sci-fi, that's for sure.
But yeah, we would go down some rabbit holes of just doing missions and just, I mean, I don't think there's any other space sim that will come out that does it better than Star Citizen, even with the fact that it can be janky. But I think the jank adds to the charm because you know that they're constantly improving or they're constantly making it better as well. I know there's the controversy of saying, oh, well, we paid money for this and it's not out yet and it's a ripoff. But here's the thing. Once you pay for it, you're entitled to any updates and content that they put into the game over time. You're not paying anything extra for what isn't already in the game that has been added, that isn't going to be added later on down the road. And y'all are complaining about it, you know? It's not like you're paying a monthly sub for it. You know, you pay your price, you get your ship, and then you jump in, and then everything you do in the game and just putz around, meet people, you know, go on missions, you know, break shit, fuck shit up, whatever it is, you know, that you got to do. Like we would get lost for hours in that game. We would be up to like damn near 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, just playing Star Citizen from the time the sun sets to just for hours, man.
You're gonna make me want to go ahead and boot it up again today, but
I am permanently fired from that game.
I'm telling you. And we had some funny experiences that we just like. Sometimes we got stuck somewhere. I would die. He would have to come and save me. He would die. I had to come and take my ship to come save him. And
me and Josh end up in prison together.
Yeah.
Let's say, these two got to play the game. I think my first mission with Austin here was, yo, let me drive that new ship you just bought. Go over there and I didn't accept the right mission that he accepted. And we got blasted and that turned into
there's the charm. There's a charm to the game, you know, the systems that weren't working correctly and we end up in prison, you know, but
35 minutes and 35-minute prison time, you know, had some brotherly bonding, you know, learning how to play that game through prison.
to kind of just, I guess, wrap everything up, you know, we got a lot of passion behind these games. We got tons of releases, multiple things to play. There's something you don't enjoy, well, we got plenty of other things coming down the pipeline. We got the community, you know, the bonds that people forge, the friendships that happen through these games, people that we meet. That's kind of just a general perspective that we can give you here with this podcast. There's plenty of other things that we can really dive into, but to not make this 6-hour podcast, you know, because there are a lot of things that we can talk about for sure.
So much things that we didn't even talk about today that were extremely interesting that I'm pretty sure if you continue to follow us and support us, we will be dropping content for probably everything that comes out. As you could you know, ask Leon and Austin here, I am probably the worst with my backlog of things that I need to get done and played. And I constantly love to add on to that backlog. But yeah, there
Yeah.
will be tons of coverage that we tend to provide for everyone.
And this is going to segue into the fact that um, these things are going to constantly be relevant for the next few weeks, let alone towards the holiday season. So none of this is going to slow down. And then what I want to make it to do, or make it a point to do, um, just to touch into some talking points, is basically look at other channels, see what their talking points are, see if anything that they speak on aligns with anything that we're interested in talking about, and just kind of putting our own take on that, but also formulating our own opinions, because at the end of the day, this is a community thing. So we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now if interests didn't somehow align in that regard. And there's only more to look forward to, which we can cover things as far as, PC tech, hardware, Nvidia, AMD, Intel, with hardware, the sky is pretty much the limit. But what we wanted to touch on today is just what we're trying to bring to the table to pretty much contribute to a long running community, and play our part with spreading as much information as we possibly can, and just kind of have fun.
Yep. Yep.
And just kind of just dial into the community and see what everyone else has been saying, and just build off of that. And I'm excited to continue to do this a lot more and collab and really just have fun with it. Games is something that we've been all passionate about for years, and we all have our area of expertise to bring to the table as far as likes, interests, things that we follow. So for me, I'm kind of like a bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to stuff that I play. Austin here, he's the racing game aficionado, soccer, and everything in between, and sci-fi as well. I do a little bit of sci-fi. And Toby, he is pretty much the everything guy. He's basically the informant, because this man is always blowing up my DMs like, yo, Shay, look at this. Yo, Shay, look at like it's hard to keep up. You know what I'm saying? So he's kind of the informant. So we kind of have our dynamic to kind of have our fun with this. And we just kind of play off each other and just kind of have a good time at the end of the day. And anything that we can contribute as far as our personalities to all this is really all that really matters at the end of the day. We're having fun with it, and then everything else that comes with it is just a byproduct of what you guys think of what we do, and then just kind of go from there. So enough of me yapping, but I appreciate the fact that I'm able to do this with you guys, and anyone that vibes what we got going on here, and just see what happens in the near future.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on a little bit of checking out other channels, checking out other news outlets and things of that nature. There are plenty of other people that you guys can look into. I would say one super big inspiration for me personally, probably for other people here in this call, Digital Foundry. It's a giant, big YouTube channel, has a lot of informative content. They go into a lot more specifics with technicalities of games, which is nice to see if you're a nerd like some of us are. But yeah, one important thing to look forward to if you are in the PC gaming space, I'm gonna just name it off. We have the Steam Summer Sale that's gonna be coming up at the end of the month, June 25th to July 9th, is I think what it's predicted to be. Could be off, but from what I've seen, we got that. It's gonna be showing up. So if there is anything that you might be interested in, any titles that we spoke about today, or any previous titles that lead up into those new ones that are coming out at the end of the year, I would suggest you give them a look. Play some of these things. Stellar Blade, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima. There's tons of them on there that you can pick up and try out. So we'll kind of just wrap it up here. It was a good podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope that you guys stay with us for any new updates that we have coming in the next couple of months.
And also to jump in, Within the future, I'm sure we'll build the community a little bit more, and in future videos or even in this video, we'll have maybe other links to other socials that we plan to have in the future, or even like a Discord link where you'll be able to join us and maybe jump into some of these future games or play current games with us. And just become part of the community and have fun with it. And that's what we're trying to push out from and meet like-minded people and just have fun.
So we really do thank you all for tuning in. Definitely leave back, make any suggestions that you might have. Just happy to be a part of this journey with us. We and I'm only speaking for me when I say this, that this is something that I have wanted to do for a while, sooner rather than later, due to extenuating external events that kind of helped catapult me into getting into this right now. So I will sit here and say that I'm more motivated than I've ever been to do this and to start this project. And it's not even really like about money. It's just about the fact that I'm just doing this just to kind of bring myself peace at the end of the day, just talking about what I love to do on a daily basis that I've been doing ever since I was a kid. So this is a good outlet for me and anyone else that wants to tune in and, kind of hear us run our mouths, for however long we, care to do so, and just have fun with the shit, kick back, relax, just enjoy the vibe. And, hell, like, you don't even got to watch the video. Just have us playing in the background for some background noise. That's what I do. I'm in the kitchen cooking. I have podcasts playing all the time as background noise, and that's pretty much it. If it helps you kill time throughout your day, take your mind off of stress and whatever you got going on in your life at the end of the day, then we're doing our job. Plain and simple. Thanks for being along the ride with us, and hopefully we continue to keep you guys invested in what we do. That's it.
All right.
Yeah, we're out.
We're out. Peace.